I still think about that Easter a lot. We were too old for Easter egg hunts. That was the first thing I remember thinking when I saw that bunny. I was 17 when it happened, months away from graduating. I only went to the Easter party because my mom made me. She said it'd be rude to skip it after 5 years of going. Plus, Jake and Taylor would be there, and Jake's mom always made the kind of deviled eggs I like. So there we were, me, Jake, and Taylor, slouched on deck chairs in the backyard, scrolling on our phones and waiting for the burgers to be done. The little kids were running around, hyped up on chocolate bunnies and mini eggs. Jake's dad was manning the grill wearing an apron that said, "If you're reading this, bring me a beer." It was all pretty normal and boring, I guess. Then this Easter bunny showed up. It was about 6 feet tall, wearing a full-on costume. White and fluffy with big ears that stood up. Even its hands and feet were covered in white fur. It had a smile that showed 2 buck teeth. We assumed the guy inside the costume was his dad, Mr. Martin, who lives down the street. He was always doing too much, like Ned Flanders. He was the kind of cringe suburban guy memes make fun of. When the bunny came into the yard, I barely looked up from my phone. I just said, "Mr. Martin's such a tryhard." "Tell me about it," Jake muttered. His entire life is a dad joke. I remember feeling secondhand embarrassment for him and wondered how he would eat or pee wearing that thing. I saw the bunny approach the little kids. It didn't talk, which wasn't that weird at first. Most costume characters don't. Instead, it had this little speaker somewhere that played children's Easter songs. The ones about bonnets and spring flowers that sound like they were made in 1952. The little kids were into it, of course. They ran up to the bunny, hugging its legs while it clapped and waved at the kids. We just kept to ourselves, half watching, making jokes about furries that the parents couldn't hear. Then the bunny started the egg hunt, and things got weird. The Easter bunny had these wicker baskets it was passing out to the kids. Pastel colors with fake plastic grass. When it got to us, we tried to wave it off because, like I said, we're too old for egg hunts. "We're good," Taylor said. "Thanks." But the bunny just stood there, holding out the baskets, just waiting, its head tilted to the left. After about 30 seconds of this standoff, Jake sighed and grabbed a basket. "Fine, whatever. Come on, guys, let's just go do it so it'll go away." We each took a basket and the bunny did a little hop before skipping on to the next group. I remember thinking, Mr. Martin's pretty athletic for a middle-aged guy sweating inside that suit. The bunny rang a little silver bell to start the hunt. Kids scattered across the yard like it was a starting pistol. We hung back, half-heartedly looking under bushes and behind planters. I found my first egg tucked behind one of Miss Stewart's garden gnomes. It was one of those plastic ones that splits in half. It was bright yellow. When I cracked it open, I expected chocolate or jelly beans or something. Instead, there was a rusty nail, like an actual nail you hammer into wood about 3 inches long. "What the F?" I said out loud, turning it over in my hand. I found another egg, this one blue under the porch steps. Inside of it was a dead beetle. That's when I heard Taylor. "Guys, are your eggs full of trash?" We compared baskets. Jake had found a broken piece of glass and a coin from another country. Taylor's had peanuts, which she's allergic to, a thumbtack, and the most messed up thing we found, a baby tooth. "Is this one of Mr. Martin's corny jokes?" Jake asked, poking at the items. "Or maybe he's using us to clean out his garage." I suggested maybe he was high when he filled these, even though Mr. Martin didn't seem like the type. I mean, he drank non-alcoholic beer when he mowed the lawn. Taylor was keeping her distance from the peanuts, and I wondered what would happen if a toddler swallowed a piece of glass. We looked over to where the younger kids were hunting. They all seemed happy, showing off candy and stickers to their parents, normal Easter stuff. "Maybe we got the weird adult baskets," I said. Looking back, the whole thing is so disturbing, but at the time we were searching for a reason that would make it make sense. We stood there, looking at our collection of strange objects, then back at the Easter bunny, who was now helping a little kid reach an egg hidden on a tree branch. The bunny was in a deep squat that I was pretty sure Mr. Martin's knees couldn't handle. Then the bunny stood up, put his hands over his heart, and hopped around excitedly with the little boy, really in character. That's when Mr. Martin walked through the back gate carrying a tray of hot dogs for the grill. so clearly he wasn't the Easter Bunny. It was like a glitch in the Matrix. It hadn't even occurred to me that someone else could be in there. My friends realized it too. "Let's go ask who it is," Taylor said, already moving toward the bunny. The Easter Bunny was watching the little kids compare their eggs. When it noticed us approaching, it tilted its head to the side and clasped its hands together, a gesture meant to look cute and cheerful. "Hey," Taylor said to the Easter Bunny, "nice costume. Who are you?" The bunny stared at her, I guess. It was hard to tell with those plastic eyes. Then it did an exaggerated shrug, palms up, basically saying, "I don't know." "No, seriously," I said. "Who's in there? Mr. Peterson? Is that you?" I suggested the name of another neighbor I didn't really think would dress up like a bunny all day, but I didn't know who else to guess. The bunny responded by covering its face with its paws, mimicking shyness, then shaking its head no. It reached into its basket and pulled out an egg, offering it to Taylor while bouncing up and down. "No thanks," she said, taking a step back. "I'm good." I circled the bunny, observing its suit, and that's when everything shifted from weird to frightening. Most mascot costumes have an obvious way to get in and out. This one had nothing. No zipper, no snaps, not even a seam where you could remove the head. The fur was continuous, like it had grown that way. "Guys," I whispered, "there's no zipper. How did someone get in this thing?" The bunny turned its head around to face me. Not its body, just the head, like The Exorcist. I didn't know anyone who could do that. The recorded song started playing again, and the bunny turned his body to face me, reached over and patted me on the head like I was one of the little kids. Just then we heard the call that the burgers were ready. I made a plate, a hamburger, potato salad, 2 deviled eggs. As I ate, I let my mind drift to a serial killer from the 70s I'd heard about who dressed up as a clown so he could lure kids. It made me want to tell my parents about the bunny. We approached Jake's mom since it was her party. I asked her if she knew who the Easter Bunny was, that I didn't think it was anyone from the neighborhood. Jake's mom didn't even stop arranging forks and paper plates. She just said someone probably hired entertainment for the kids, and why should we care? We walked away to get napkins before we could say anything else. That's when we noticed Mrs. Abernathy watching us from the shade. She was Taylor's grandmother, this 90-something-year-old woman who'd moved here from Eastern Europe after World War II. Taylor's family had moved her in last year after she fell and broke her hip. She mostly kept to herself, sitting in corners at family gatherings. She beckoned us over with one bent finger. She wanted to talk. Her hand trembled as she pointed at the bunny. "That's no costume." None of us knew what to say to that. We respected Mrs. Abernathy. She lived through enough real horror in her life that we never dismissed the things she told us. Mrs. Abernathy survived German occupation and Soviet rule. She'd seen things that made her believe in monsters, both human and otherwise. She'd grown up in a remote village in the Carpathian Mountains where beliefs were strongly rooted in superstition and folklore. Taylor once told me her grandmother's village had kept up medieval practices well into the 1900s, including witch hunts. Mrs. Abernathy leaned forward in her chair and told us that in her village, witches were believed to transform into hares, which were much bigger than rabbits with longer ears and legs. These witch hares were drawn to gatherings, especially ones where children were there. According to Mrs. Abernathy, they collected things like crows did. In the old country, finding a hare's collection of trinkets was considered evidence of witchcraft. She said these items were used to form connections with the people who had touched them. When Jake asked if the witch hares hurt people, Mrs. Abernathy told us that they were not violent, not directly at least. They were gatherers and watchers. During the famines, she said, mothers would find their children with small gifts, rocks, feathers, that type of thing. Days later, the children would vanish. My mind drifted to the strange things in those eggs that we found. When I looked around for the bunny, it was standing perfectly still in the middle of the yard. I got the unsettling feeling it was watching us talk to Mrs. Abernathy the whole time. That's when Mrs. Stewart called out for everyone to get together for a picture. She was the type of mom who posted her whole life on Facebook. We tried to hang back, but Mrs. Stewart wasn't having it. She insisted we get in, saying the Easter Bunny doesn't visit every day. Mrs. Abernathy was the only one who was allowed to opt out because it was so hard for her to get in and out of her chair. The adults arranged everyone in neat rows on the patio, with the smaller kids sitting cross-legged in front. The Easter Bunny stood in the back row, its paws resting on the shoulders of two dads. Mrs. Stewart handed her phone to Jake, who gave us a look like he'd rather be anywhere else, but he took the phone. I stood at the edge of the group, as far from the bunny as possible, while still being in the frame. "Say Easter," Jake called, and everyone did. After a few clicks, the group broke up. The moms collected empty serving trays and carried them to the kitchen. Jake looked down at Mrs. Stewart's phone, baffled. Taylor and I peered over his shoulders. The photo looked normal at first, rows of smiling people. But where the Easter Bunny had been standing, there was just a blurry dark shape, like a shadow or something, vaguely resembling a person hunched over. "What is that?" I whispered. Taylor suggested a smudge in the lens, but no one was buying it. Jake swiped to the next photo. Same thing. The bunny was just a dark, hunched shadow where a white mascot should be. We looked up to find the real bunny across the yard, helping little kids with their baskets as parents started packing up. The party was winding down. Mrs. Stewart walked over, hand extended, reaching for her phone. "Let's see how the photos turned out." Jake handed it to her without saying a word. She glanced at the screen, smiled, and walked away, without any reaction to the bizarre figure in her photos. I don't know what she saw or didn't see. As people started saying goodbye and loading leftovers into Tupperware, I noticed the Easter Bunny slipping away from the backyard, heading toward the front of the house. I told my friends that if it gets in a car, we can check the license plate. The three of us followed at a distance, watching the bunny reach the edge of the driveway. No one else seemed to notice or care that it was leaving without getting paid or saying anything. The bunny paused at the edge of the street, its head turning left and right, checking for traffic in the almost empty suburban road. That's when we came around the side of the house. What happened next is something hard to describe. The bunny bounded down the street, not like a person jumping. It leaped over parked cars. Each bounce took it at least 10 feet into the air and 20 feet forward. It moved like something in outer space, where there's no gravity. Within seconds, it had reached the end of the block and disappeared. The three of us just stood there in the middle of the street. Jake asked if that just happened. I nodded, not saying anything. It was definitely real, but it was also unnatural. Whatever visited the Easter party that day was not human. I still think about that day a lot. Mrs. Abernathy died that May. I wonder if I should have asked her more questions. Sometimes I get curious and I go on a subreddit called r/creepy. I guess I'm expecting to see someone post about the bunny. I think in some way I'd feel better knowing someone else saw it too. There haven't been any posts about it yet, so I don't know. I don't think that Easter Bunny is something I'll ever forget.